Hello. So this week's discussion 10 is about someone who has behaved in a way that seems inappropriate for the workplace. So I had a ex-supervisor or manager, as you would say, who would tend to make his own schedule. He would also come in, and sometimes his jokes were typically like inappropriate, and you could tell he had a thing for certain staff members because of the way he would always have to relate him and the stories and issues that we would have in our sectional meetings. And he would put himself in the situation. He was the type of manager that even for a government facility, like if a big event happened, such as a hurricane, he was gone. It would always be an excuse of, oh, I'm moving, or I had to move my mom. And for like the major events that happen within a city of a hurricane, Memorial Day weekend or spring break, he was never there. And to be the actual operations type manager and not be there, and somebody else having to take your place without knowing everything and fully of the functions that you did, was a little bit inappropriate, and it also caused difficulties in the day-to-day functions for, the department. And at times when he would, it would just always be some excuses that shouldn't have been anything that was a legit excuse. But he had one of those positions where he was friends with the actual director. So because he was friends with him, he got away with like a lot of stuff, and the staff of the organization felt like this was inappropriate because there's certain ones that, put in the time and effort in making sure that the day-to-day operations are effective and that positions are covered and their positions are covered. But when he wasn't there, everybody would have to kind of fill in and figure out what it is that needed to be done in order to make sure that everything was still efficient and effective for process. And then when he would come in, it would be a very nonchalant type attitude, as if nothing happened, or as if he was right to be able to not be there and give an explanation. And typically when he would give an explanation, it would be when he would return. It wasn't giving you an explanation where he was at the time of the event, or, a notice ahead of time. So it would throw the director, would throw the staff and the organization off guard, because now people are trying to run around figuring out where he is at and if he's okay or if something happened. And you would get no response from him. At times when you would call, he wouldn't pick up his phone, he wouldn't return your text. So that at times would put people in a very tense environment and upsetting, because that's a failure in the line of command, and now you have to have people fill into certain positions and roles that they're not aware of or know the full functioning of it. With his jokes at times, he would also make those types of critical jokes or sayings that would be direct into a person of who it was, and he just kind of said it with a careless attitude that would make people uncomfortable. It would discourage people, and that affected people as a whole in the center and their organization of the function, because they would feel like they're not appreciated. They would feel like you could talk to them any sort of way. And coming from a manager, people weren't wanting to be very positive and productive or go above and beyond the productivity that's expected of them, because they didn't feel like that was a manager who even appreciated the work that was being done. And when he would talk to people or send emails, it was discouraging enough where some people wanted to just move to another department or just leave altogether because they didn't want to deal with him. Having a manager like that is very ineffective, especially for a government type of facility and team, because you want a manager that speaks positivity to you. You want a manager that is dependable. You want a manager that is loyal and honest to you, but in a critical type of way that it can be productive and it can be positive, and it's positive reinforcement. And when you have people that don't do that, it causes a lot of problems in the chain of command. It causes a lot of problems within the employees, and they don't want to do their work, and then they don't want to be a part of the team, or they just lack on their roles because they feel like they should be responsible of it as the manager, or they should do it themselves. It's not anything that's willing to help out as a team. So when this happened, he eventually resigned, which everybody had a relief when he did resign and move, because they were just like, nobody wanted to deal with him and nobody really wanted to talk with him about things. And, you know, there was already things unwinding in the process of his failures as that manager. And now things are getting spun out of control and haywired, but instead of him taking responsibility for it, he left. So now it comes to the time of having to bridge that gap, but also figure out what went wrong and how to correct it at this point. So when he left, it gave everybody a sigh of relief, but they also had a little bit of extra workload to be able to recover from his damages and mistakes from him holding that position for such a long time. And that, I feel like, if it was my situation as a director, I wouldn't have tolerated it. I would have put somebody there who can actually fulfill the duties effectively and efficiently without having so many excuses or not being there. Again, I feel like as an operations manager of a position, your duty is to be dependable. Your duty is to be loyal and honest with the staff, and I think it's always about positive reinforcement and speaking positivity into the staff for productivity, so that way everything gets done efficiently, effectively, and smoothly. And I can't wait to see what your guys' feedback is.